of dogs here. I don't even know how many. There's a lot though. How cool is this, guys? I just want to get a little bit further forward so that we've got a nice open clear view of the dogs. There's a bit of mating going on as well. So you can see blood all over them. They've obviously had a kill somewhere. They're not feeding now, but they obviously have had a kill, and now it's play mode. And when they play like this, it is the best thing to watch. We are super lucky, guys. This is one of the most endangered predators in the world, and so we are fortunate to be able to get a view of them. Which pack this is, I'm not 100% sure. It looks like it could be the Investec pack. I'm just trying to count how many adults there are. So I think it is the Investec pack. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I've seen them, so I'm just trying to recognize some of these individuals, but I think it is them. I just love, though, when they're in this mode. After they've killed, it's coolish weather, they go into complete play mode, and there's jumping all over each other, kind of go crazy, and sort of it's games and playing and up on their back legs, and it's all just super exciting. And like I say, to see these guys is as special as it gets. I know some people don't like them because they say they're ugly and that they are vicious and they are ruthless, but they are amazing animals. The ability to do what they do and the way that they do it really is just phenomenal, and I actually quite find them quite endearing. I like the way that they look. They've got these kind of funny markings all over them. No two dogs are the same. It's for me the best kind of animal in that it's the way that it goes about its business is always just chaos. It's never a situation where things are quiet and tame. It's just absolute pandemonium with dogs all the time, as you can see for us trying to get you. And now even with them kind of after a meal, you would expect somebody like a leopard or a lion will lie down and flop over and that will be the end of it. But dogs, it is now play mode. They're running around, chasing each other. They're jumping on one another. It's all just fun and games at the moment. So it's the best part about dogs is that they are just constantly busy with something, and there's constantly play going on. And that one's mating the other one's head. That's not ideal. Oopsie. The ones in the back there are a little confused, unfortunately. No, you've got it all wrong. Other way around. Poor female. It's not ideal, I don't think. Anyway. Maybe, yeah, the less said about what's going on in the background there, the better at this stage. But the rest are at least playful and having such a good time. Look, I love when they go on their back legs like that. It's my favorite thing. When you get dogs up on their back legs, it really is super cool. They kind of play and they jump and they go crazy, and it always looks like they're just having the best time when they're doing stuff like this. So I'm so glad we caught up with them and that they are playful in this particular section. And it looks like at least that they're going to go semi-quiet now, at least sit down for a bit. Although we know with wild dogs they can go from sitting to standing in the space of about 2 seconds. But there must be a female that's coming into estrus. Look at this one that's trotting. Number of males here that are chasing the females around. So I wonder if there's not a female going to estrus. Maybe this pack is going to den much later than some of the other packs because they're sniffing her. There's a number of males, like I say, looking. And interestingly enough, these wild dog females sometimes will mate with multiple males, even though there's an alpha system. I was talking to Grant the other day, who studies the dogs in the Kruger system, and he was telling me how they've done tests and there are multiple different males that are producing cubs in the area, or in the specific sort of den and within the pack that's been breeding. So it's quite interesting just to see how it all goes. Proud cat mama, yes, they can hear incredibly well. Those big ears are designed to pick up sound. You can see how they move just like the elephant's ear. It's like a satellite dish and it's picking up a lot of what's going on. And the reason why they have to hear so well is because, remember, they split apart when they're hunting, so they've got to be able to contact call and hear themselves and hear each other. And then also when they're hunting, they're quite low to the ground, so they're not very high up, and that means that those ears are able to pick up sound around them. So really cool. These poor females are having a really tough time. The males are literally just mounting any female that comes past them. They're jumping on her. So they're all having a, oh geez, it's not going well. Boys are not knowing what's happening at this stage. They're all a bit confused as to which way they're supposed to be mating. There we go. That's better. Well done. No, she's not interested in mating with you yet. So it's really intriguing behavior. I wonder if there isn't some males that have joined this pack and they're trying to now mate with the females to try and kind of establish themselves. But you can see there's at least 3 or 4 different males that are mounting females in different places, and there's lots of different females that are being mounted. Now, I doubt that all these females can be in heat, but like I say, it could be new males to the pack. Males do move around quite a bit, particularly in this breeding season. Oh, he's going for it. He's going for gold. She seems to be far more tolerant of that male mating than the other one. It's all very awkward this morning. Campy and Julie's mommy, no, it's not only the alphas that mate. So the female-wise, yes, she'll be the primary individual that mates. Once she's fallen pregnant, sometimes a beta female will also reproduce and will also mate with some of the males. So you can have a situation where 2 females go at it, and we'll be able to have the cubs. Oh no, what is going on here? Boys, you need some education, and females, see, I think she's trying to push him away and trying to keep him from mounting her from behind, and that's why we're getting this awkward mating. But in terms of males, you'll find that actually multiple males will mate with the female. It does happen. Generally, the alpha male is the one that will try and mate the most, but it can happen in a situation, particularly in a pack where you've got new males that have joined. There's no real defined alpha male structure. You'll find that the multiple different males can mate with those alpha and beta females. So if you look here, there's 2 different dogs mating at the same time. So you can see very clearly that it's not just one male that is trying to mate here. There's multiple different males that are trying to mount these females. I don't think they're possibly mating fully, but there is definitely multiple males that will mount the females and will try and breed with them. So it's a bit of a myth that only the alpha male will breed with females. There is other males that do as well try their luck. Obviously the alpha will try and stop that as much as possible, but if he's mated himself silly, then you will find a situation that other males will come in and start mating too. It's late in the season though for these guys to be mating, although there have been recorded cases of puppies being born in October and November, so it is possible, but it is very late for mating to be taking place. I'm almost of the opinion, like I say, that there's new males that have joined and they're trying to assert themselves more than anything else. It's not that these females are actually in an estrus cycle, because you can see the females are not allowing it to take place. If they were actually in an estrus cycle and they wanted to mate, did you see that dog was carrying the other one off its feet? Oh, this is ridiculous. There's dogs that are carrying each other around. It's just all over the show. And there we go. So if they were in heat, you'd find the females would actually allow the males to penetrate and to be able to actually mate properly, which is what we're seeing here is not happening. They are trying to avoid actually mating with these boys as much as possible. It's a very awkward situation this morning. It's a very awkward sighting, but highly entertaining nonetheless. And, well, I'm not going to lie, I've had a chuckle at a few moments this morning already in these wild dogs. They've certainly been quite entertaining. Lita, the males and females, it's not easy when they're younger, but basically the males often get a thicker collar of fur around the head area. Also, their genitals are quite easy to see. Just look underneath their legs, you'll find the males are very visible, and then the females, often their teats are quite visible. So it's a little bit easier to see the males than it is the females, but once you've seen a couple males and you in real life, it's actually quite simple to see the difference between the two. Also, the females tend to be a little slighter than what the males are. They tend to be able to, have thinner necks, thinner bodies, and slightly more petite than what the males are. And I'm going to go forward a bit just so that I can get a better view of all of them. Oh, still more mating. So how many have we got here? I haven't even counted yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It must be the Investec pack. If there's 13 of them, it must be then the Investecs. And so I'm curious if this pack den. I need to find out from Grant if they did den. I thought they denned in the Manyeleti, in the Manyeleti, but obviously there's no puppies here whatsoever, and they would be of age if they did den, that they would be able to start actually running and start actually moving with the pack. So I'm very surprised. There must have been either they lost their puppies and there's a potential that they might breed again. That also can happen with wild dogs. If they lose their puppies, they sometimes will have a situation where they can breed again if conditions are favorable and food items are available. So it is possible. These poor females, they are being absolutely hounded by these males. Can't be comfortable. Imagine having a situation where you literally have to chase males off all the time. And it's two females in particular that are the ones. In fact, now there's a third female also trying to be mated from the front. So there's just, it's an absolute mess. Boys, you are not behaving this morning. You are all over the stage. But look at this. You see how they're chasing them, trying to wear them down, and whether or not they get it right is anyone's guess. At this stage, I don't think so. I think we're going to have a situation where the females are not going to give in. But there's 4 different females that are trying to be mated with by 4 different males, and, well, you can see all the males have got it wrong this morning. Nobody's got it right. There goes a dog being carried off into the distance. Shamsan, are you saying are there chances of the dogs denning on Djuma? Shamsan, in all honesty, I think no. Given that this pack's core range is Manyaleti, Buffelshoek, very seldom do we see them down here in Djuma, so no, I don't think so. But I suppose it is possible. And in terms of gestation periods, it's a very, very short gestation that they have. So they don't have a gestation period that is very long. And the reason why is because, well, when the puppies are born, they're absolutely tiny. And they are pretty useless and kept inside a den. So you find all denning animals, if you think of cats and the various others, that they will all kind of have very short gestation periods. So I will give you the exact number now of the gestation. I just want to double check it, but I think it's 2.5 months, but I just want to make double sure it's not a little bit earlier than that. So if you give me 2 seconds, there we go. Of course, now the information that I'm looking for, there we go, 69 to 73 days. So it's very, very short period. It's just over 2 months. 2.5 months is how long they gestate for. So it's a very short thing. And if they did, let's say, fall pregnant now, we would be then looking at basically the end of November just into December, which is very, very late in the season for wild dogs. But it is all very messy at the moment. Like I say, this is an adult show that they are putting on this morning, and not even a good one either. It's just all over the place. There's dogs mating with one another. And amateur hour, exactly, Lou. It is amateur hour. You can see he's trying to mate with her. She doesn't want anything to do with it. She's bucking and bronking, and she's trying to stay away from him, but she's got no chance. As long as their males are around, it's going to be a case that they are going to be followed and mated and pushed and prodded and all kinds of different nonsense that's going to be going on. So Laurie and Jimmy, you're asking if they get, is it tired, Lou? I think I heard correctly. Or do the dogs get tired when they mate? I would imagine so. Oh, tides locked together. Ah, okay, there we go. Thanks. Sorry, I thought tired wasn't the right word. Tied together. No, not that I've seen it. Their mating is quick. It's much like the cats in that they mate very quickly. The females generally are not hugely impressed by it, but basically what they do is the male will normally grip around the hips of the female, and then he mounts her and mates with her like that. So the mating process is very similar to a dog in the way that they actually kind of come together, but they end up really doing it quite fast. It's not a long drawn out process like you would see with dogs. They just quick and it's done and over. You can see he's basically trying to wrestle her down, but you also notice that unlike the cats, the female needs to be standing. He doesn't get it quite right if she's not standing. You can see he's nowhere near. He's just pretty much making do with dry air at this stage, but he's going to have to wait for her to stand up. The way that they mate, he needs to have her up and she'll squat slightly, and then they can lock on from there basically. So I suppose they do lock on. I suppose it's no, you've got it all wrong. Poor female. This is just, it's embarrassing for them. You guys are not doing the male wild dogs proud at all today. Well, so the implications of having late season young ones is that hunting becomes a lot harder, and therefore providing food for the young ones is harder. It's more difficult. Also, they den in places like termite mounds or holes in the ground, and so rain is a big problem. It can often flood into those places and drown the pups. So that's some of the reasons why it's a huge issue to have dogs denning late in the season. Also, like I say, just food becomes a lot harder to catch than what we see in the winter months. You know, in the winter they can hunt close to water and they generally can find food very easily. In summer things are a lot more spread out and the density of food items maybe is a little bit less, which makes it a lot harder for these guys to actually be able to find the nutrients that they need to sustain these puppies. Remember that puppies, they can have 18 pups at once. It's really a lot of puppies and it can be really very difficult. I think the record number of pups that's ever been born is 21, I think, which, can you imagine, 21 little ones that you have to look after? You need the best possible conditions and the best possible amount of food in order to sustain that. Oh, shame, girl. Is he chasing you around? So that's the male there. You can see what I was talking about earlier with a thicker collar of fur as opposed to her. Look, so you see her there. She doesn't quite have as thick a, bulky a neck. So it's almost a bit of a mane structure and slightly smaller than what the male is. Right. Well, it seems as everybody else is going to rest. There's still our awkward pair in the distance there, and that everybody else is now sleeping and taking it very easy and is spread out, which is fantastic news. But while we enjoy these guys a little bit longer, let's go across to Brent with his fluffy little lion cubs. Well, indeed, Brent, and I think if Brent Leo Smith was here, he would be on an absolute high because he absolutely loves wild dogs. So does James Henry. The two of them are besotted with these things and they end up going absolutely crazy, particularly Brent. And he would absolutely love to see this interaction and to see this behavior. I know Brent very well, and this would be for him just the most chaotic sighting, and he would love every second of it. But you can see they were all sleeping, everybody was down and relaxed, and then one female started to scent mark, and that just triggered the males into absolute frenzy. And now everybody's up again, everybody's chasing one another around. There's lots of awkward mating happening, as you can see in the background there, and there's a bit of playing as well. So it's just absolute chaos at this stage, and it is the best thing about dogs, is that they just don't rest that often, and particularly in weather like this they're going to be fairly active, and there's going to be lots of this play, biting. And there we go. The story you say is like any college bar on a Friday night. Well, yes, exactly. I think it's a free-for-all at this stage, and the boys have definitely had far too much to drink at this moment in time because they are just behaving like absolute animals. And well, I suppose they are animals, so it's okay. But you'll see, look, there's lots of games and they're chasing each other around, and it's males and females that are busy kind of going up against each other and pushing each other up in that typical pattern. On the floor. There we go. So this sensor's just showing me the collar on this particular individual. So most of the packs are collared at the moment. They've got a project going where they're trying to, oh, look at this, these two, are they tawny eagles that are busy going after each other? They're kind of chasing each other. So these guys had a kill, and obviously the tawny eagles came in, and now they're having a little bit of a go at one another into the distance. But the thing is that they are collared at the moment because they are busy doing a whole test on distemper. So the dogs are collared in order to be able to get the distemper virus under control and to try and see if they can vaccinate against rabies and distemper and try and keep our wild dog populations better. So there are, I think, 22 different packs in the Kruger National Park now, and of those 22 packs, I think 19 or 20 have been collared. I think there's only one that hasn't been, or they might have actually got them all by now. And so they are now monitoring exactly what's going on. They can work out if the pack's not moving correctly or if there's irregular patterns, and they can then go and have a little check and also then keep them up with their vaccinations. So there are collars on one dog in pretty much all the packs in Kruger at the moment, and it's, like I say, all just to be able to monitor them and keep them safe. Remember, their numbers are declining rapidly, and distemper and rabies are two of the biggest problems that they have. And so that collared dog is highly important, and I'll have to let Grant know that we saw them today, although he would have got a collar ping to say that they were somewhere at 6 o'clock this morning, and I'll just let him know that we did see them and send him some photographs of all of the individuals, because he likes to monitor and make sure that all the individuals are the same. And it's so interesting when you sit with Grant, who like I said is this he works for Endangered Wildlife Trust and monitors the dogs in Kruger. It is super interesting to talk to him and to see exactly what's been going on with dogs and how little we actually know about these guys. They really are an animal that has been completely misunderstood and has been prescribed very badly in textbooks and things like that. A lot of their behavior is not accurate at all. He was telling me that they did a study on hunts and potential hunts, and they reckon that the wild dogs have the worst success rate of all of the animals, because what they say is that if a lion chases a buffalo, that constitutes a hunt. But with wild dogs, what you'll find is that the entire pack is going to chase 20 or 30 antelope in a hunting session. So while they only have one hunting session, individual hunts are actually, they're not as successful as one would think. So you have a situation where their success rate, apparently he was telling me, is 15% if you take individual hunts. But in terms of a hunting session, which a cat will hunt once and that will be the end of its hunting session, whereas with the dogs they'll chase many different things. In terms of a hunting session, they have a very high percentage rate of getting some sort of food in the time that they do hunt. But individual hunts, they actually have a very low percentage of success rate. So every time they chase, it's only 15% of the time that they actually catch what they've chased, which is pretty crazy. Everybody always thinks that it's 70-80%, but it's actually not the case. It's 70-80% of the time that they spend hunting will they get something to eat. Barbara, you're wondering what they ate this morning. Well, from what I can gather, the guys say that the carcass was so mangled it was difficult to even make sense of what it was, but they thought it was an adult impala female. That's what they thought, which would have meant it probably was pregnant too, and they would have got the fetus as well. So in a way, I'm quite glad we didn't see that whole process. It's not very pleasant watching it, but that's what they say. It looked like an adult female impala, but they said it could have been a young nyala as well, a baby nyala. It's difficult when it's just a hoof that you're looking at, and there's very little else that's left of that particular individual. So I think that's what they got. I'm surprised there are no hyenas, given how close we are towards Gwen's Den. Gwen's Den is literally, if we had to draw a straight line, not even 300 meters from where I am now is where Gwen's Den is, and I'm surprised with the noise of the dogs that some of the hyenas haven't arrived. They have this hate relationship with the dogs, and hyena-dog interaction is just the most insane thing to watch. So I'm very surprised. Maybe Gwen knows she's on her own, and that taking on 13 wild dogs is not the best idea at all. But it's interesting, this particular area, for me, it would have to have been an impala that they went after. Just the sandy patch areas, generally impalas. They do sometimes hunt wildebeest, but it's more young wildebeest. So this area, we don't have any baby wildebeest at the moment. It's not the right time of the year, so I doubt there would have been any of those. And then there are reported cases of them taking, the young zebras and these kind of things, but I'm inclined to think what they killed here would have been an adult female impala, just given where we are. This sandy patch area is an area where impalas spend a lot of time and really do kind of concentrate and hang out in these areas, particularly early in the morning. So that's what I would imagine. But you can see the mating is just a complete sham at the moment. These boys are really not getting anything right at the moment at all. They're trying their luck, but it's just an absolute mess. Very awkward, I would say. Boys, you need to go back into training. And it's all because the females are not being receptive. If the females wanted to mate, they would be up. They would be allowing the males, like I say, to get much closer and actually be able to then penetrate and to be able to mate in an effective way. But what they're doing is they're purposely lying down to stop that from happening, and it means the males, they can try their luck all they want, but the way that the body is designed, they just actually can't mate with her if she's down. Not that that male has stopped. He just keeps going, keeps doing his thing. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I wonder if this male took a lesson out of Mfumo's playbook back in the day, because Mfumo back in the day was pretty similar to this male wild dog in that he was also not the greatest of maters. It's typical in the younger boys. It takes them a bit of time to learn how to do such things and learn how to get things right. So at the end of the day, you've got to kind of practice makes perfect, I suppose, as a mating wild dog or a mating lion. And Fumo seems to have come right now, and he's okay, and he can do the job. So hopefully these dogs will too. Now, in terms of when I say young animals, generally with the wild dogs, there's very few dogs that will make it over 5 years old in the Kruger Park system. In fact, 7 years old is a push and an old dog in our system. So most of the male dogs that are mating are between 3 and 5. So they're still very, very young and are not individuals that have too much experience in these kind of things. The reason why we have such a low count in the males is they often distribute and move from pack to pack, and they get then caught by a number of different predators. So lions in particular are a big problem. I know this denning season lions that I know of have gone into at least 5 different dens for the 20 odd packs. So they've caused a massive decline in a lot of those puppies, and I'm not sure what the denning season was like, whether it's been successful or not. I'll have to ask Grant what the total number of puppies is going to be now that they're starting to leave den sites and starting to move around. But I can tell you that some of them got really massacred. Interesting though, there is a pack, and just to give you an idea of just how little we understand and how complicated the social dynamic is of wild dogs, there is a pack that is currently in an area just north of Hoedspruit, which is part of the Greater Kruger National Park, and there's a set of dogs, or a pack of dogs, that went into that area, and they denned and ended up denning, and the alphas were both killed by lions, and it left those puppies, and it was, I think, 8 puppies in total that were completely, basically they didn't have a mother, and the alpha male was also gone, and they killed then a further few members of that pack were killed, and it left a subadult male and a subadult female. The subadult male and the subadult female actually then ended up raising those puppies and keeping them going. Then subsequent to that, a breakaway that was related to those dogs came from a different pack, joined in, and there was 2 from there. Then another group of males came from the Kruger National Park, and then another group. So there's 4 different basically groupings that have come together, and they're raising those pups as if they were their own, which is really quite complicated and completely kind of unheard of. You wouldn't think that 4 different kind of groupings from 4 different packs would come together and raise offspring that are none of theirs. So none of those females or males produce those offspring, but yet they're raising them and taking them into adulthood. And the fact that some sub-adults were able to do it for a few months is really just, to me, quite amazing. So it just goes to show that dogs are far more complicated and far more socially diverse than what we actually give them credit for. We think that their packs are very solid, and actual fact the packs are very fluid, and there is a lot of movement between these packs. There's males that distribute, and Grant was telling me that he's had a male that's been in part of 7 different packs in the time that it's been alive, and so they do distribute, they do go into different areas, they do spend a lot of time moving around. The females obviously tend to stay a little bit more in packs and tend to be a little bit more solid in their movements, but you'll find the males are very transient. They go all over the place and will try and kind of find some sort of opportunity to be able to mate and to try and sort of start that way. So it's a completely interesting thing, and something that is very, very interesting, and to kind of see the process going on is really quite amazing. And to have the ability to follow dogs now with technology, that we can start to learn all of these things. Now, Chris Rogue, you're wondering if maybe this is 2 packs that might have joined. I suppose it's possible. Remember that there was a fight in Buffelshoek 2 days ago. So 2 packs came together, fought 2 days ago, and maybe what's happened is some males from those packs have split and have joined the wrong packs, and now they're trying to assert themselves. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Now that I've got some photographs of them, I'll send them to Grant, and he'll be able to tell me very quickly as to which packs these all belong to. So if we've got left side photos of every single individual, then we can send them to him, and he'll be able to tell me exactly which pack is which, and whether there are actually males in here that are from different packs recently, and that 2 packs are now coming together, and that's why we're seeing this kind of bonding process taking place. It is very possible after a fight you do see it. I hypothetically, in my opinion, I think it's because they don't have puppies. There's no puppies here. We can't see any sign. There's no female that looks as though she's been lactating over the last few months. There's nothing like that. So I think what's happened is either this particular puppies were all killed early in the season, and they're now coming into another estrus, and these males are now going to try and mate, and they might have a second litter, or it's a situation like we said now where there's basically newish males in the area and they're trying to establish themselves over these females. But I think it's because they haven't denned this year, and that's why the females are still receptive. Ruth, you're asking if the males fight for mating rights, especially if they come from different packs? Well, there will be competition for sure, although you saw now with this whole process that we had, there was 3 different females that were being chased around. Of those 3 different females, there were, I think I counted 6 different males, or 7 different males that were trying to mate with those 3 females. So there is a number of different males, but there was no aggression from male to male. So they were all just trying to bounce around and trying to secure a female for themselves. And you can see now there's another male that's moving towards a female, sniffing at the female, you see. So this is now a different male that's going in. So there is a competition for the alpha kind of male and to become the top of the pack, but there's not that much aggression. It's not like male lions or male leopards that will really go at each other and kill each other over mating rights. It's not the same. You will find multiple males who will mate with the females if the females allow it, but generally the alpha male kind of sections off that female, mates with her for that period that she's in estrus, and she falls pregnant, and then there's no need for her to mate with other males. So that's what you see. But there will sometimes be cases where you get like this, where there's 5 or 6 different males mating with the same female. Bill, you say we've got to give the males an A for efforts. Well, A for perseverance, I think. Effort, maybe not, because the effort is really not very good. But perseverance, yes, they are not going to stop, and they're going to keep hassling these females until such time as they can get this right, or until such time as the females just completely lose the plot and bite at them and really kind of get rid of them. But there's something that's causing them to do this, and I'm sure it's because at least one of them must have some sort of estrus cycle kicking in that's causing the males to behave in this way. Right, now from one endangered carnivore that is very difficult for us to find here to another one that we battle to find here, but that Taylor McCurdy in the Masai Mara has managed to find, and that is the spotted, beautiful, fastest land mammal. We have a hiatus in the sex-crazed morning that these dogs have had. So everybody is just having a little rest now and just taking it a little easier. And I'm sure it's just a brief period until they start all over again. The poor females, they try and lie down and they kind of try and get away from the males, and then the males get a little bit bored. They lie down, and then as soon as a female even remotely twitches an ear, there's a male that's on top and trying to do his thing, and that's causing a little bit of a stir in amongst them. There you go, you can see in the background there's one that's trying his luck, even though that female is sleeping. Oh, now he's just going to take care of himself quickly, make sure that that's all okay. But that's what keeps happening, is as things go crazy, so the rest of them start to end up mating and start to kind of go crazy and all join in. And it looks as though it's all the younger dogs. I was just looking very carefully now while we were off air. It's all younger individuals that are kind of partaking in this. It's none of the really older adults. The older adults seem to be these ones that are lying more to the left side of this pack. So that's the right side there where we've got the younger individuals, and then this side here seems to be the older ones. And I know when they collar these dogs, they generally collar an alpha, so either an alpha male or a female, and so I think that those might be the alpha pair in front. It looks like a female in front there and the male behind, and so maybe this craziness that we're seeing at the back is just sub-adults that are flushing with testosterone and estrogen, and that's why we're ending up with a bit of it. But I sent Grant a quick message now just to find out, and sent him a photo quickly of the dogs that we've got, just to make double sure which ones they are and if they all belong to this particular pack. So hopefully he'll answer me before the end of drive, and we'll be able to know exactly who belongs to where and whether or not it is a grouping of new dogs, or if some of the dogs are not from this pack, and that's why we're getting the chaos that we've seen ensue so far this morning. Little one, you're asking if the blood is corrosive to the tracking collars. No, not as far as I know. Those things are very hard. They're made out of, the collar itself is a very hard leather that is very difficult to break, and then the actual sort of part that sends the signal is a very hard plastic, so that's wrapped in leather. So no, the blood doesn't really do too much to it. You can see that collar has been through the mill a little bit and is all over the place, and I laugh because Grant always tells me that he giggles about it as well, because when he gets the collars, they always try and camouflage them. So basically what they do is the guys that make the collars will spray them to look like a wild dog's coat so that they blend in and don't cause any issues. But Grant says within about 2 days that spray paint is completely all off that collar. It no longer looks like it. It's down to its base materials because it gets run through bushes and scraped and scratched and all kinds of other things. And generally the collars are not on for very long periods of time. So this whole project that's going on, why they collared at the moment, is only going to be for the 2-year process. So once that 2 years is up, all the dogs in the Kruger, the collars will start coming off again, and they'll then try and leave them not collared for quite some time. So there will be obviously individuals that they will keep collared just to watch range motion and just to keep things going, but most of the packs will not have the collars after this whole process has been done and after the distemper and rabies vaccinations have happened. The thing is that it's all a trial run at the moment, so none of it is completely proven just yet, and so that's why they want to monitor it for this process. If it does work, then hypothetically they can treat all dogs and make sure that they are resistant to those diseases, because those are pretty much the #1 human influence killing on dogs at the moment, and why. And I say human influence because they're getting it a lot of the time from domestic animals on the fringes of these reserves that wild dogs occur in. And so if they can remove that element, then we should get a nice growth in the population. Obviously, there are dogs that are going to be killed by wild factors. In fact, 50% of the puppies that are born will be killed via a natural situation. So whether that be hyena, lion, leopard, those kind of things, birds of prey, martial eagles are a big problem for denning dogs. So snakes, there's all kinds of different things that happen. So there will be about 50% of the pups do sort of get reduced, and then there's only about 30% that actually make it to a breeding age and adulthood. So it's a really low percentage of pups, but you then think that these guys can have 18 in a single litter, and imagine if, let's say now, a alpha female produces 18, a beta female produces 12, that's already 30 extra dogs, and if 30% of that is at least some sort of growth within one pack system. So obviously it's very seldom that you're going to have a pack that's going to look after that many puppies, because trying to find food is going to be very difficult, and the alpha female will then in all likelihood kill those beta female pups. But if there is enough food and they can sustain themselves, then you might get a situation where they will actually carry on and try and keep up that process and keep up, raising of that many little ones. It's interesting also that the sizes of packs have changed slightly over the last few years. Naturable, you're asking if I think we'll see puppies this year. I mean, in terms of the other packs, the Sands pack, the pups are starting to run with that pack, and so we do see the Sands pack here every now and then, and therefore maybe we'll get lucky and we will get some puppies, but they're not tiny. I mean, those are already now 4 or 5 months old, and 4 months old, and they're fairly big already and running around and what have you. But in terms of little puppies, I'm not sure. I mean, this pack theoretically could den. Chances of it denning on Djuma, though, like I say, is almost null. Like, they spend very little time here. If you think this pack hasn't denned as far as we know and hasn't had puppies, yet we've only seen them once in, I think, or probably twice in the last 5 months, means that this is not an area they spend excessive amounts of time and therefore are not going to den here. They'll den in the core of their range and away from threats of other wild dogs, as well as where they know about lions and those kind of things. Anyway, we will sit with them longer. We'll sit and relax and take it easy with them, but I believe Taylor McCurdy has made the epic journey around and gotten the long way around to be able to relocate her cheetah, so let's jump across to her. Indeed, well, from one endangered predator to another, as Taylor was saying, but you can see the toes and the feet of these wild dogs, very different structure to what we looked at yesterday with Tumba's feet. Tumba had those big, wide, round paws with very neat round toes and those 3 lobes at the back, and the claws were sheathed. There you can see these claws are out, they're blunted from running around and moving, and the toes are very much squashed together. And I was saying yesterday morning when we looked at tracks for the wild dogs that they had a very squared off back pad, and you can't quite see it from this angle, but hopefully these dogs will just move, or that dog will just move its foot slightly forward, and you'll be able to see that the back of that pad is completely squared off and is completely flat. Now, while you guys were away, Grant sent me quickly a message back saying that he thinks it's the Investec pack, and that this collared dog could be a dog that comes all the way from the Timbavati and from Mangala, and apparently it ran all the way to Kruger, into the eastern boundary of Kruger on the Mozambique border, and then came all the way back, and since then has been moving south and is dispersed from that Ngala pack as it's known, and has now come south into this pack, and that he's joined into this area. Apparently yesterday he was seen in the Manyaleti, so he thinks it's that individual. He says he's just going to double check and make 100% sure, but if that is the case, that's pretty unbelievable. It means that he was saying to me that that dog has probably covered close to 200 kilometers in the last 3-4 days, which is just ridiculous. And he says maybe the arrival of this dog is what's causing this process to happen. He says it's very late in the season for mating, and theoretically shouldn't actually be taking place. But what can happen is when dispersal males arrive in a pack, this is what happens. It amps everybody up. There's this flood of testosterone, and the males then just try and mate with all the females, even though the females are not in an estrous cycle at all. So that could be the case. So theoretically, yes, then there is an individual that is from a different pack that has arrived and is causing the stir, and why there is this behavior that we're seeing this morning. It's really, really interesting to hear from him. And that's the nice thing about having guys that are around us like this that we can chat to. It's always interesting to talk to researchers that follow these dogs. He spends every day waking minute with them, so it's interesting to chat to him about it, and the fact that he knows them so well helps us to be able to kind of work out what's going on, and just from a little cell phone photo he's able to work out what pack it is pretty phenomenal. So be interesting though. It's going to be an interesting kind of next phase that goes with this pack. Danielle, you say this is your first time to see wild dogs on Safari Live. Well, you've been spoilt, because we've had a great sighting of them this morning. They've been very active, they've been moving around, they've been doing their thing, and well, it's been a little bit of a sham and a little bit of a kind of awkward morning for mating wise, but super interesting to see the behavior and to know that this is some sort of kind of disturbance in amongst them, and it really is an interesting process. So I'm quite amazed by the whole thing, and I'm glad that you've gotten to see the wild dogs, and you can see why they're such a favorite amongst a lot of the guides here and a lot of people that come on safari, because they're animals that are not very sort of quiet. They move around a lot. You can see now they're up again in the background, and they're starting to do their thing, and they're mating sort of, I don't know what to call it. It's not really mating. I suppose it's their kind of awkward display that they've been putting on. So it's starting once again up in the background, and it's just going to go like this the whole day. Every time any female so much as decides to move, she's going to be hounded by males. You can see as soon as one gets up, look, and then a whole bunch of others are up and moving around. Now there's quite interesting marking on one of the dogs. She's very, very light. Not that bunch there. This one here, I think it's a female. It might be a male, but the one at the back, look at how light it is, and it's got white socks. Do you see that? It looks as though it's got a perfect pair. Are you jealous, Senzo? It's got perfect pair of socks for you. You're going to have to get some wild dog socks to match this female. But how cool are those little feet? So it's the first time I've seen white socks on a wild dog. Generally they have white markings on the legs, but not all the way down and very clean like that lighter colored female. So look, you see now, one dog stood up, and this is what ensues after one dog standing up, is everybody comes in, white tails in the air, everyone's sniffing, everyone's carrying on. And the three older dogs that I was talking about earlier, look at their reaction to this process. Absolutely nothing. They are not interested in any way. It's all the young dogs that are causing it, and I wonder if maybe these three have not split off from somewhere else, and this is all a different pack on our right-hand side. I'm not sure, but it's interesting that those three are in no way interested, but all these other ones are greeting and are trying to kind of sniff around and causing a little bit of a disturbance in amongst them. It's really interesting to kind of watch this process, and I honestly have no idea. Even Grant said to me, I honestly also has very little idea of what is going on and why they are doing this. There's a lot of these things that are just not understood at all. So it's very interesting to watch. Now it seems as though everyone's going to start settling down, except for those that are still trying to mate in a very odd way. There we go, those three down again. Scottish, you're asking if they're bigger or smaller than household dogs. Well, at the end of the day, I suppose it depends on the household dog that you've got. They're about the size of, I'm just trying to think of a really good sort of size comparison. They're a slender version of an Alsatian, basically. An Alsatian would be maybe a slightly taller than a wild dog, not by much, but they are, obviously Alsatians are a lot more bulky and long-haired than what the dogs are. The dogs are not nearly as long-haired as them, but that's about the size that they would be. So they're a medium-sized dog, household dog, I would say. Medium to large household dog would be their size. So they are relatively big, and I mean, in terms of the predators out here, though, unfortunately not very large at all. But what they don't have in size, they make up for in numbers and sheer just kind of intellect with those numbers and how they use them. They are very clever, and if they corner something much larger than them, there's cases of apparently dogs taking down buffalo, which I just can't even imagine. It's a struggle for lions, and yet these guys have managed to pull it off from time to time. So they really are incredible animals when it comes to hunting and when it comes to kind of getting the food that they require and also keeping themselves safe. So you'll find they'll accost. If a hyena came in here now, that hyena would be chased by the entire pack, bitten, and be completely abused by these guys. So they use their numbers to their advantage, much like wolves in that regard. So even though they're not the biggest, they will definitely still utilize each other and cooperate as a unit, which makes them seem a lot bigger. Oh, these poor females are having the toughest time. Digital Forge, you asking how do new dogs interact with packs, and what is the process of a new dog arriving? Do you get a situation where they are immediately welcomed into the pack, or do they have to shadow the pack for a while? Generally, you'll find if it's in conditions in breeding time and in the mating season, generally they just form part of the pack and they kind of are there, and you might find the alpha male getting a little bit upset if it's another male coming in, but otherwise they're fairly social. They don't mind other kind of packs joining, especially if they show submissiveness and they kind of come in and they're slow, and they will shadow for the first little bit. I mean, it'll be maybe a day or two that they'll kind of be on the fringes, but soon after, once they have rubbed up on the others and they take on the scent of the pack, because remember, they'll rub up on the others, and it's half of the kind of way that these guys understand each other is by scent. And so if they smell like each other, then they become very quickly, do they accept them. So it's just an initial day or two that is a little bit uncomfortable, but after that they're pretty much integrated and part of the pack. And it's normally around food, because what happens is they kill something and that member then joins in and rubs up against them, and then that scent is just like the rest of them and is then accepted by the pack. And that's how puppies sometimes that have been orphaned and they then try and reintroduce them to a pack, is they'll actually dart a adult member and they'll rub the puppy on the adult member before they wake them up, and then they let them go like that, and generally, hopefully then they accept them as part of the den and part of the puppies that they have had. So it's an interesting process, and how they use their olfactory sense to be able to try and work out who's who. But still the young ones in the back that are looking around. Everybody else is starting to go to sleep now, but it's still the odd young one that's pottering about in the back. But I think they're beautiful. If you ask me, their markings are astounding. They've all got different coloration, all look slightly different, and I really think they kind of have these unique and intriguing coats, and it's always nice to see. What are you doing? That poor female, she is being hounded by that male. You can see she's got a little bit more of a delicate face than him as well, and a smaller muzzle than what he does. PT Watcher, you're asking, are these the dogs that they want to rename Painted Wolves? Well, they already have that name, so they either are called Wild Dogs, Painted Wolf, or African Painted Wolf is another one that they call them. So you can use either or, it's not a problem. It's just known as Wild Dogs generally by the South African sort of clientele. In some areas they will be called Painted Wolves, but I don't know, they don't look wolfy to me, so I like the Wild Dog name, and they are wild. They are completely crazy, these guys. Even though they do have that kind of painted coloured coat, they act like hooligans and are all over the show, and as we've seen this morning, mate like hooligans too. So Wild is an appropriate name for them as far as I kind of figure it out, and so it's pretty cool to have that name for me. I mean, it's all different for everybody. Some people prefer different names, and so it's just each to their own, really. There's two in the background that are still trying, but it's really... Buttons, there is a massive push to treat these domestic animals on the fringe of the reserve to try and get them to not have distemper and rabies and those kind of things. But you also must remember you're dealing with a population that is living well below the average income line. It's a poor area, it's a rural area, and they have difficulties in even providing food for their families, let alone treating their domestic animals for things like distemper and rabies. So it's really tough, but there is a lot of things going on. The state vets spend hours doing basically rabies clinics, as they call it, where they invite the community to bring all their animals, and they will treat them for distemper and rabies free of charge. They don't charge them anything to do it, and they really are trying to get as many dogs as possible. But it's not easy. It's really not an easy process to do. There's a lot of people that think that they are doing something bad to their dogs, and it's also about trying to then educate them that they're not, and trying to then get it down. But they are really working hard at it. There is a lot of rabies and distemper campaigns on at the moment to try and reduce the number of domestic animals that have it. They're also trying to do a lot of work with neutering and spaying of dogs, because unfortunately a lot of the dogs out here are not either of those, and that means that there is a huge number of dogs that are breeding out here, and the population is just escalating all the time. So they're trying to do free neutering and spaying, and just trying to control the population a little bit, and then also obviously try and control the amount of disease that's being spread by them. So yes, they are working on it, but it's a monumental task that they are trying to undertake. It is a lot of work, and it's going to take some time to get it right. They're not going to get it right very quickly, but they will get there eventually, and the more we can educate, and the more we have people from the communities working in areas like this, the better it's going to be. The more they're going to understand the value of trying to protect things like a wild dog, and then getting distemper and vaccinations for their animals that they have at home, and spreading that through the community and telling them what's going on. So yes, there is big projects, and there's a lot of sort of people working on it, but it is going to take time, and there's still going to be those that slip through the cracks. The problem with rabies in particular is the reason why it becomes such a big issue is that rabies is when it affects an animal, the animal becomes completely disorientated. It doesn't know where home is, and so a lot of the rabid dogs end up drifting from their owners and going off then into the reserves, and that's why we see the issues that we do. But it's disease that once they've got it, it's very difficult to then find that animal and to treat it. So they've got to try and prevent it before it happens, and find animals that are still with their owners and then sort them out there. But like I say, I know for a fact, because I've some of my friends are the guys that are busy doing these campaigns and actually sterilizing and trying to sort of get into a situation where they are treating rabies and distemper, and they really are hard at work. They do every 2-3 days of the week. They're up and busy. Since I just watched these two, they're having a little game. See, the one is stalking the other one. Look how its head is low. That's how they would go into a stalk mode, and it's going to chase after. There we go. So they're just having a little game, chasing one another. Look, now he's down in this sort of submissive posture. It's like, don't run too far, come closer. I'm pretty sure it's because you... There we go, look. So it's all about games, fun and games at the moment with some of them. So cool to see. Patty, so wild dogs are found in various parts of Africa, not all over Africa, and not only where we are located. Unfortunately, their range has declined massively. But wait, just listen to this. Oh, I thought they were going to start giggling a lot more. They have this little giggle and squeak. No, haven't quite. So, but basically with the dogs, unfortunately, a lot of their range has been lost due to habitation of people. So we have a situation where a lot of the wild dog areas that they used to roam, and there's people there that now farm, and dogs are lethal to farmers because they eat a lot and they kill a lot, and they get hold of sheep and goats and cattle and all that. And so a lot of them have been persecuted for that and pushed out. Then of course distemper and rabies has been a big issue, so they've lost a huge portion of their previous range. But where you do find wild dogs now is South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Tanzania. There are some dogs there. There are some dogs in Kenya as well. Sometimes you will get them in the Mara, but it's very seldom up that way. There are some in Laikipia and in areas like that. And then Namibia, sometimes. I think there's dogs that go in from Botswana into Namibia, if I'm correct. I'm just trying to think where else there are wild dogs. That's pretty much it at this stage. Those are the only countries. Zambia, that's the other one, that's the last one. And there's actually a big project at the moment to try and start getting Zambian population of dogs up and trying to get them going. Because here in South Africa, funny enough, we have some reserves that have got wild dogs, and the populations are exploding on those reserves, and we've actually got too many wild dogs from some reserves that there's dogs sitting in captivity with no homes. So you would think that a rare species like this, where you would think that dogs would want, people would want them in their reserves, is actually a situation where there's dogs sitting in bomas just kind of waiting to find some sort of home. And the problem with it is that they need a lot of space, so they can't just give them to anybody and be like, here's a pack of dogs on your small little, nature reserve. They need to be in an area where there's a lot of space, and it's also, they're a big cost to whoever has them. If it's a fenced off system, then you're going to kind of have to replace a lot of what they eat, which is not going to be cheap. So they're trying to get them into the bigger parks and get them spread again back into their areas, but it's difficult. So hopefully they will be able to get them. I know they just released a pack into northern Kruger, so the northern Kruger lost its dogs through unfortunate poaching and snaring particularly. So a lot of dogs died from snares up that way, and there was no wild dogs north of Letaba at one point, but now we have a situation where the dogs have just been released up there. In fact, they were released, I think it was about 4 or 5 days ago, a nice big pack into the Shingwetsi region, which is quite far north in the Kruger, and hopefully that's going to be a positive sign, and those dogs are going to start populating up there, and we're going to get a much better distribution of dogs up in the Kruger Park northern sector. Anna Marie, you say this is one of the best wild dog sightings you've had in a long time. It is. I mean, we've had very few wild dog sightings recently, and so we've been seriously spoiled by this sighting. And it's been a fascinating one in that it's been unusual behavior. It's something that we don't see very often. There's also a lot of mystery involved, which I will research after drive and try and chat to Grant, and we'll try and work out exactly what's going on and who every individual is that is here, because I think they'll still be around in the afternoon, and we will spend some time with them. But it has been a serious pleasure, and I have been spoiled this morning. And it's for me to leave tracking a leopard when I know that leopard is right there, that I can hear Franklin's and a monkey's alarm calling. It means that it's something special that has to drag me away from that. So I have been spoiled this morning. I've been really looked after, and it definitely is a very special thing to be able to be a part of seeing something like this, and seeing these rarer individuals in action and moving around is really quite special. So indeed, we have been spoiled, and not only here. It's just insane to think that we've had wild dogs here in the Sabi Sands, big elephant bulls. We've had cheetah this morning. We've had 2 beautiful male lions, chubby little lion cubs. Between the Mara and the Sabi Sands, on days like today, it's just phenomenal. And who would have thought that we would have had that kind of spectrum of animals in a morning game drive? Now, I mean, if a leopard had to arrive, or hyenas, we'd have leopard and hyena. Maybe that's going to be our sort of goal for this afternoon, to complete the predator sort of cards, and to have all of the big predators of Africa seen in one day would be just a very special thing for Safari Live. I don't think we've had a situation where we've had every single big predator in one day. I'm not sure, maybe we have, but it'll be super cool if we can do it. I think we have done it once. We've had the wild dogs with Ali, and I had lions, and I think we then got a leopard as well, and cheetah and lion. So we've had them all before. I think we missed hyenas that day, but we'll try this afternoon to try and complete our kind of big predator, so to speak, numbers, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know what you would call it, a big predator list. There we go, that's the best name for it. But these dogs make me laugh. There we go, there's a dog now. It's just up and running for some reason. I don't know why. It's just decided to go trotting. Oh, maybe it's got a little itch of some. They do sometimes carry fleas and various other things, so it just got up and started running. I'm not sure why, and there we go. It's going to cause trouble again and wake everybody else up. Papadano, wild dogs no, they don't suffer from hip dysplasia because they don't live long enough. So, as I was saying earlier, it's very difficult. We very seldom do we see wild dogs going over 7 years of age. Even though they can live to 12 in captivity, they very seldom in the wild are going over 7 years. And so to get hip dysplasia is generally later in their lives, and the dogs just don't live long enough to start showing symptoms of it. Also, they haven't been kind of inbred and crossbred and all kinds of other things, which is what hip dysplasia starts to happen, is when those kind of things happen. So generally, no, they are all right and they move around, but they do start to get older, and when they sort of go past 7 years, they start to slow up a little bit. And it's like any animal. I mean, any animal that gets older, there will be some weakening of the bone structure. There will also be atrophy of the muscles, and so I suppose a little bit of hip dysplasia might take place if they're in a captive environment and they get to sort of 11, 12 years old. But at this stage and in this kind of time frame that they're alive, no, we don't see it at all. I've certainly never seen it with wild dogs. And even if they did get it, you'll find these dogs will push their way through it. They'll make a plan. I've seen a dog with only 2 legs and still surviving and moving around and participating and being part of the pack. So it just goes to show, even in a situation where they've got 2 legs and nothing else, they'll make a plan. And so even with hip dysplasia, they would make a plan and try and get this kind of thing sorted and done. So pretty interesting. Oh no, it carries on again. Anna Marie and Odie Farming, you're asking, why do I think wild dogs have such a short lifespan? Well, unfortunately, in this particular system that we're in now, a lot of them are obviously being killed by predators, so that's a part of the reason why their lifespans are quite short and why we don't see many older dogs. But the shorter lifespan, probably because of the numbers that they breed, so they breed big litters every year, so they can kind of sustain the population with that. Also, at the end of the day, they're an animal that covers a lot of distance. There's a lot of attrition on their bodies. Remember, they're running all the time, so there's going to be issues with joints and with feet and with all those kind of things. They're going to wear down their claws. Also, the nature of what they feed on, their teeth wear down fairly quickly. They also get ticks, they get parasites, and that will all aid in having a lower life expectancy. But remember that, it's not that short. At the end of the day, at 12 years old is what we generally say for male lions, and even, we've seen some female leopards succumb at 12 years old from varying aging signs in their bodies and varying problems. So it's not that short a life expectancy, and the thing is that their life is hard, and they end up moving a lot, and they do a lot of distance, and so their body is getting abused effectively. It's getting really utilized to its utmost, and that's causing a lot of attrition on that body, and that's probably why you find their lifespan is so short in comparison to us as people. Also, they're a smaller animal. At the end of the day, they're much smaller. And people actually, funny enough, would have even a third of their lifespan if it wasn't for modern day medicine. And so we're just very fortunate that things have developed and we're able to medicate and look after ourselves and get ourselves into a ripe old age, whereas, they don't have that situation. So a slightly younger animal, basically, that has a short lifespan. Right, let's quickly link across to Taylor because I believe she has a cheetah that's just killed something. What an exciting morning we've had, from wild dogs mating behavior to little lion cubs, male lions, and now a cheetah with a kill. It doesn't really get any better than that. We've been seriously spoiled today, and it's made drive go rather fast, I would say. It's been a very quick, interesting drive that we've had, and I've certainly enjoyed every single minute of it. It's been wonderful. The only thing I haven't enjoyed is this horrible wind and overcast weather, so hopefully that disappears. But it's actually meant that we've had such a fantastic sighting with the dogs. Had it been a hot day and clear, these dogs probably in all likelihood would have gone into shade and wouldn't have been nearly as active as what we've seen this morning. They've really been up and down all over the place because it's nice and cool, and the wind is actually what's getting them up every now and then because it gusts and then their ears pick up the wind and off they go. So we really have been spoiled, and the weather itself has actually played a part of our sort of morning of doing what we have done. But it is that time, unfortunately, where we need to start saying goodbye. There is lots of promise for this afternoon with the tracks of that leopard and fresh signs. The wild dogs are here. We also have, obviously, the team in the Mara that will be out, and there seems as though lots going on in the Mara this afternoon. So from Taylor and a probably quite tired Brent, Senzo, myself, and Lou in FC, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you this afternoon on our Sunset Safari.